Are you a doctor trying to elevate your practice and make your impact on the world long lasting? Ready to go from a hustler to a CEO? Man, you already know. Welcome to the Michael Buffington Show, the podcast that's transforming the lives of doctors. You ready? Let's go.
Hey, I'm Michael Buffington, and welcome back to the show. Today, I want to get into how your emotional IQ is directly linked to your bank accounts, and quite frankly, a whole lot more than just your bank accounts. But hear me out on this, because this has been an area that I've had some of my biggest lessons. I've also had some of my biggest failures, and I have seen this play out for me. The people that I coach in Game Changer, I've seen it play out with many of my partners in business. It is always a thing. And again, I'm going to share with you some of the mistakes that I've made around that so I can help you prevent that, as well as give you the framework in which you can use to help filter your decisions and make better decisions and really level up that emotional IQ, because it's going to take you to new places. So I can reference a couple of the biggest financial losses that I ever suffered based on this emotional or lack of emotional IQ. And what I mean by that is simply when I don't filter, or I haven't filtered my decisions well, and they were based on the state of me at the time. That is the feelings that we all possess, thank goodness. There's a gamut of feelings, from joy and happiness and content, as well as frustration, anger, despair, a whole level and a whole gamut in the human experience that we all go through. And I'm thankful for that. And I hope you are grateful for that as well. What I didn't have for a lot of years is really a framework, and I like to call it a filter, in which to use to really guide me in my life. Sure, I had a lot of mentors, I had a lot of coaches, I had a lot of good advice, but ultimately at the end of the day, I am me, and I'm operating within that container I always refer to of how my life goes and who I am, and you are going to do the same. You have to go with who you are, who you want to be, and also some of the things that you were taught and grew up with, quite frankly, that hang around right through the stories and the evolution of who we are and how we got here. So once we assess and get clear on that current reality, here we are. And so what do you do on the day-to-day? And I want to tell you, I've lost the biggest amounts. The reason I tie this to bank accounts, number one, is to get your attention, because it got my attention. It was situations where life is good, business is good, things are rolling, and I put myself in situations where when you think of emotional decisions and you think about losing, right? Some people are going to think, well, you made a mistake. Maybe you were in a bad spot. In this case, I was actually in a very good spot. So good that I didn't have a good lens for the facts of the situation. I couldn't assess the business environment. I couldn't assess the business reality with metrics and with those hardcore facts. So emotionally, I invested money. I did this on a couple of occasions. One was in a property that was being built, and I went all in on it. And I knew some people involved, and I thought it was going to be a great thing, and this is going to work out. And you're like, you're living this life of abundance, and how could this go wrong? Well, I can tell you, there's a lot of ways that it could go wrong, because I was simply making an emotional decision. I had the money, available, everything was great. Another situation too, very similar, is, had the cash, kind of riding high, kind of feeling good about the way things were. Someone presents an opportunity. You don't have a plan. As I say, you don't have a plan for your money. Somebody else will. And that's what happened. So I made those decisions. Now, the crazy part is it took me to the other side of the spectrum, because eventually I had a lot of, frustration, anger. I was pissed off. I was pissed off at people. I was pissed off at myself. I was angry that I made the mistake, and then there was a certain level of guilt for losing that money. There was some shame around that for my family, even though my wife's always super supportive and my kids didn't really know any different. But the weight that you can put on yourself is immense. So there's all that, and I think outside of me. So it's not just a story of me. This came to my mind when I was thinking this today, and that was this is a player who played in the NFL. We'll say that his name rhymes with Pez, And he was local to me here in Texas. And I'll say local, that may be a stretch. But amazing athlete in my opinion. And I think a lot of people's opinion. Just a specimen of a guy. And his career, while exceptional, didn't really play out at the level that many people thought it would based on his sheer athleticism. And I could see the emotional cracks, like that emotional IQ. Again, not talking about his intelligence, not talking about his football IQ, not talking about any of it, talking about the emotional IQ. And I saw this play out again. So he goes through his career. I think he probably underachieved based on what he had the ability to do for a lot of different reasons. Became challenging to have on teams, and you could just see that impact throughout the people around him and collateral impacts, which is often the case for any of us with around that emotional IQ. Then I saw recently on a show, and I only saw like an episode of this, it wasn't really my thing, but he was in a tactical situation within the show. And here's a guy who arguably is the most athletic in this reality show. He's the most athletic, yet he came up into situations where he just couldn't cope with the circumstances, whether it was fear, whether it was anxiety, whether it was worry, whether it was all, again, you can put all the labels on it that you want and that describe it, but he shut down. And after that event, he snapped and, started taking shots at everybody around him and he ultimately quit. No longer than after he quit did he want to come back. And he was like, wait a minute, I want to work on this. I want to conquer this. I want to compete. I want to do these things. But it was really too late. And it proved too late, and they didn't allow him to continue in the show and didn't allow him to continue to compete. And I thought, man, I could see the pain in the guy, at least from where I sit, in that he knows it. He hasn't been able to conquer it. He's had hopefully a good life, but I know this is something that's still eating at him, and I don't want that for you. So here's on that note, the framework in which I would use help solve this, because this even showed up for me today. So I'm going to talk to you about this episode, even within this episode. So I started doing some recording today, and it was early on in me getting started in really a relaunch of this podcast, or we'll call it a new show that I'm doing here now. And I have a studio. It's a soundproof studio. It has the lights. It has all the stuff set up. That's not here. This is in my home office. It's not in that studio. So therefore, the lighting wasn't right. I had to check mics. I had to check sound. And I'm doing all this, and I'm not really wanting to spend near the money that I did on the studio. And I'm just kind of like, hey, this is going to be my place where I record it. We'll see if that holds true or not. And I was going through that. The people that were helping me a little bit this time do some of the backside stuff and diving in and really some tech support and things for me. I started to tell myself this story because of a lack of emotional IQ here and kind of a habit pattern of myself. I started like, I really need this in a better framework, right? Because I teach and I talk in frameworks. And so I need a better framework. And, I should have known about this light sooner. And I could have ordered one that was a little bit different. And that would have fit this. And this didn't fit my desk. And what about this light? And what about the backlight? And what about the mic? And how does it sound? And is this camera good enough? And well, nobody cares about all that. And just on and on and on. And I literally woke up this morning upset, irritated, because I made a commitment to myself to film a certain number of episodes. And here I was kind of spinning my wheels. I was spinning out. I was lost in the feelings of the whole thing. And I started to lash out. I'm literally training this morning with my wife, and she's looking at me in the gym like she can see it in my face. I got my earbuds in, and I'm just rolling. Now, she's over there kind of singing and dancing in between her sets. I am not. I am pissed off. I've got the look in my face that she's seen 1,000 times, God bless her, and she knows probably not a good idea to say anything because I'm ready to fight anybody and everybody because I'm fighting myself. So this goes on. Breakfast wasn't awesome. Enjoying a coffee together, not awesome. Because this is on my brain. This is what I have to do. This is what I said I was going to do. And I keep the promises to myself. So I am hell-bent on doing this. And I want it perfect, but it's not going to be perfect. And I know it, so I'm stuck. And then ultimately telling myself, wait a minute, why am I doing this in the first place? It's to bring value. It's to be real with people. It's to have a real show. It's to have real talk. It's to talk about results. It's to do all those things that I want to do to make a bigger impact. So what in the hell am I doing?